Hi, and welcome to Focal Point on AFR Talk. Glad to have you in the conversation today. 888-589-8840, the number to call if you want to join the conversation about what happened yesterday and how we move forward. I'd love to get your opinion about what you think happened, what you think is responsible for the shellacking that Mitt Romney took at the polls yesterday. Decisive victory for Barack Obama at the polls. We know that the result in Florida is still outstanding. It's not going to make a difference. Even if Mitt Romney were to pick up Florida, it's not going to be enough. We know that the vote in Ohio is liable to be a while before it's certified because of the number of provisional ballots that have come in there. It'll probably be it is by law 10 days before they can even start counting them. So they don't even start counting the ballots until November 17, which is 10 days from the election. Well, 11 days, but 10 days when you start counting the day. So they're not even going to start counting them, for another week and a half, and then who knows how long it'll take. And so the results in Ohio won't be official, won't be certified until that recount is over. And by the way, that would be an interesting thing. If for some reason Romney were to win Florida and the provisional ballot recount in Ohio were to go against President Obama and into the Romney camp, that would be sort of a fascinating thing to kind of deal with. It'd be interesting to see what would happen should that turn of events come to pass. Now, one of the issues yesterday is that we turned, as Tim Wildman, our president, said, we made a deliberate decision as a people to turn away from a form of government and a view of public policy that is rooted and grounded in the Judeo-Christian tradition. And we adopted instead, as a people, this was what the American people chose. And don't forget that the Nazis came to power in an election in 1933. Adolf Hitler was an elected official. So don't think that having some kind of and I'm not saying that Barack Obama is Adolf Hitler. Don't misunderstand me. My point is that a democratic form of government is no guarantee that you are insulated from tyranny. A tyrant can still rise to power and can be chosen and elected by the people, even though they know he's a tyrant. That's happened before, and it may be happening again. Now, Gouverneur Morris was a founding father. He was one of the men that helped to finance the American Revolution, and he was shocked at what he had seen in France. He observed the French Revolution, which was chaos, it was anarchy, it was civil unrest, as compared to the American Revolution, which was very orderly. The colonies elected people, men to represent them, to go and make decisions on their behalf. These men deliberated, they debated, they voted, they brought back the results of their deliberations and their recommendations to the people in their own states, and allowed the people in their own states to vote on whether those recommendations would be adopted or not. It was a very, very orderly process, in contrast to what happened in France, which was violence and anarchy. And what he observed, Gouverneur Morris observed about the French Revolution, remember Thomas Jefferson was a big fan of the French Revolution, but not Gouverneur Morris. The materials for a revolution in France are very indifferent. There is an utter prostration of morals, depravity, extreme rottenness of every member. The great masses of the common people have no religion, no law but their superiors, no morals but their interest in the high road à la liberté. The first use they make of it is to form insurrection everywhere. And he wrote this in 1792, religion, by which he meant Christianity, is the only solid basis of good morals. Therefore, education should teach the precepts of religion or Christianity and the duties of man toward God. So he says, Gouverneur Morris, right along with George Washington, the first president, talking about how central an active moral life was and spiritual life was in the people as a guardian for their liberties, and we have certainly gotten far away from that. Number to call, 888-589-8840 is the number to call. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Lindsay in Columbus, Ohio. Lindsay, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, as frustrating as this election has been, I think it's important to remember that it's just not a political war that's going on. It's a spiritual one, and that we need to remember that I guess I could liken Satan to a mouse with a megaphone. He sounds big and scary and loud and like he's in control. But what we need to remember is that God's still on his throne and he's in control. And if we repent and focus on him, that's what's going to make this country better, and not just elections in the political realm. But that's all I had to say.
All right, that's a great word, Lindsay. And so the fact of God's sovereignty is both a terror and a comfort. It is a terror because God is sovereign, and he said he will not be mocked. A man or a nation reaps what he sows. That's a sovereign God speaking that. We want a God on the throne that says, hey, it's no biggie. Live any way you want, and I'm not going to create any problems for you. I'm an indulgent God. I'm happy letting you do whatever you want to your heart's content, and I'll insulate you from all the consequences of that. I'll protect you from that. You can live as you want, and nothing bad will happen to you. That's the kind of God I am. Now, a lot of Americans wish they had a God like that on the throne, and maybe they even think that they have a God like that on the throne because they can do all kind of stuff, and nothing bad ever seems to happen to them. But we know better. We know that God is sovereign. He will not be mocked, and that's a terrifying thing. But as Lindsay said, we also know that he's a God of enormous power. Now, he's not going to act unless we humble ourselves, and we're told we got to humble ourselves, turn from our wicked ways, repent, pray, seek his face. All those things are things we have to do. And God, if we do those things, God will heal our land. So he has sovereign power to do that, but the next step has got to be the people of this land humbling themselves before a mighty God. And I was talking in the first hour about the fact that essentially we have a divided nation. We'll talk about that with Herman Cain at the bottom of the hour. But you look at the electoral map, and I'd encourage you to go to Fox News or Politico, one of these places that has a political map, red states, blue states, and look at that thing, and it will really be striking to you the pattern that you will see. What you will see is the entire middle of America is red, with the exception of New Mexico and Colorado. But you can start clear to the East Coast with states like North Carolina, South Carolina. You can move all the way to states in the West like Idaho and Montana, all the way up to the border with Canada from the border with Mexico. And you see this giant swath of contiguous states. I mean, they share borders. They're next to each other. They're neighbors that are all red. These are the places where evangelical Christianity, biblical Christianity, is the strongest. And the other states are blue. They're largely in the upper Midwest, like, Ohio and Wisconsin and kind of through there, and then over to the Northeast. Those are blue. And then you have the states on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, and California are all blue. And so you see that we have a divided nation, and we have segments of this nation that are united together with a similar philosophy, a similar worldview, a similar orientation, a similar set of values, and they're next to each other. They're clumped together. They're clustered together. They're not all spread out. And so it would be interesting, to think, well, let's just, be interesting to think about just dividing this nation into two. Red states can be red, blue states can be blue. Focal Point AFR Talk.